Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal. Hi, everybody. I'm Andrew Fantasia. Welcome back to another review marathon. It's July 1st. It's Canada Day. Happy Canada Day for those who celebrate. And for those who don't, hey, it's just another Monday. It's time for another review marathon. It's the 14th one, in fact, because this has become a tradition here on the channel, Review Marathon 14. As always, off the top, if you like this, feel free to give it a thumbs up, give some love to the subscribe button as well. And hey, if you're a fantasy fan, or you know somebody who is a fantasy fan, and you're like, oh gosh, gee whiz, I wish I knew what gift to get for that fantasy fan in my life. Well, wish no more. Consider me the granter of wishes. Consider me the genie of the lamp, because I got here my fantasy novel series, We Were Wizards, that I wrote. There's my name, and it's available on Amazon right now. The first 2 books that you can get in the series are there. They're ready to be scooped up and read and enjoyed and just given some tender love and care. The first one is this purple one, and then the next one is this gray one. And you can get them both on Amazon in 3 different formats. So, fantasy fans everywhere, I'm looking at you, Chris. Get these books right now. And if your name is Chris, hey, I just freaked you right the hell out. Congrats. Plus, it's nice to support, an up-and-coming author, right? I love Brandon Sanderson, but the guy's got plenty of money already. He's gonna be fine. Anyway, it's time for Review Marathon 14. If you're new to these, you've never seen a review marathon before, here's how they work. The rules are, I spend 3 months watching as many movies as I can that I have never seen before, but the movies have to be at least 1 year old on the day that I watch them. This time, between the months of April and June, I got to see 26 films that I could check off of my film bucket list. Not as many as I'd like, but still a pretty decent number. And we're going to talk about all 26 of those as quickly as we possibly can, starting right now. 10 to Midnight. Is there any in-story reason why this Charles Bronson potboiler is called 10 to Midnight? You bet your sweet ass there isn't. Speaking of sweet asses, the killer bears his every time he murders someone, and he murders someone a lot of times in this movie, so get ready for scenes that make the opening of Austin Powers 2 look conservative. This is bland, and then there were none. You mean to tell me that you're going to take 10 suspicious characters, sequester them in a creepy old mansion, and have a mysterious murderer start offing them one by one as paranoia sets in? Take my money! This motion picture was made for me. Avanti. Billy Wilder made a crap ton of movies with Jack Lemmon, but Avanti is definitely one of them. It's a comedy of errors, but it's not laugh out loud about it. In fact, most of the comedy in this 2-hour and 20-minute romp will pump nothing more out of you than a good-natured guffaw every now and then. It's also a romance, I guess, even though it's asking you to root for infidelity. I don't know. The acting is great, though. Brian's Song. According to a few sources, this is famous for being one of the most beloved TV movies of all time. It tells the true story of Chicago Bears running back Brian Piccolo and his friendship with fellow rookie Gale Sayers. They became the first interracial roommates in NFL history and formed a powerful friendship. And then, because this is a TV movie after all, things get heartbreaking real fast. Very sweet and very short, clocking in at under 80 minutes, Brian's Song is a lovely little tearjerker and the only movie in the world where you can see Lando Calrissian and Sonny Corleone hanging out and being pals. The Brother from Another Planet. The guy who created Skynet is a mute alien who wanders early 80s New York, getting himself into and out of trouble. He can also detach his own eyeball and use it as a security camera. This is weird in the most wonderful way. It plays out more like a series of vignettes than as one coherent movie, but that just means it doesn't ask much of you. Think of it like an R-rated E.T., but with an even more likable protagonist. The Burning. Unless you're in some kind of hurry to see a super young Jason Alexander and Fisher Stevens bopping around a campground, you can probably skip The Burning. The slasher completionist will have a good time, but when the tent pole hits the soil, this is just Friday the 13th without Jason. And even though Cropsey has his own legacy in real-world urban myth, he ain't no Jason Voorhees. Cat People. European folk horror might be my favorite flavor of horror. But Eastern European folk horror about a banished tribe of people who can shapeshift into cats? Yeah, I'm all over this like glaze on a donut. They could have gone further and done something way more interesting with the concept, but for an early 40s film, they gave it their all and made an admirable effort. There's a lot of stuff to appreciate in here. The Curse of the Cat People. I accidentally saw this sequel first because I didn't know it was a sequel, but it's also a loose sequel that barely has anything to do with the plot of the original. And there are 0 cat people in it this time. The title can just be chalked up to idiotic studio interference, which is an epidemic that's done more harm to the film industry than the coronavirus ever could. But The Curse of the Cat People is great, straddling the fence between horror and psychological drama way too deftly for a film made in 1944. It outshines its predecessor by a wide margin. The Deadly Spawn. I don't know what this movie would have been like without the excellent practical puppets, and frankly, I don't want to know. All I can say for sure is that The Deadly Spawn is outrageously good creature horror. The alien puppets are genuinely terrifying, like a hybrid between a Venus flytrap and an alien worm. They're gross and squishy and very, very dangerous. Everything you could ever want from a movie monster. Top marks. High and low. This Kurosawa crime thriller is all over the place. It's about a wealthy man being forced to give up his entire financial security to pay the ransom of a kidnapped child. Until it isn't, but then it is again. The movie can be split up into 3 chunks. The first is set entirely in the rich man's house, dealing with the moral quandary of paying the ransom. The second chunk is about the police using detective work to track down the kidnapper. In the third chunk, they learn who the kidnapper is, but now they're trying to catch him in the act so that they'd have a case. There's really a lot happening here, and it's all photographed and acted beautifully. Just be prepared to end up watching 3 very different mini-movies instead of one large one. I Love You, Beth Cooper. My love for Paul Rust and Hayden Panettiere knows very few bounds. Both of their lawyers can vouch for that, so I already knew I was in good hands going in. But the laughs ended up being few and far between. The sweet moments came across stiff and awkward, and a lot of this movie just felt clunky in a weird way I can't quite articulate. It feels like they went way too far, way too fast, with the angry boyfriend storming Rust's house and trashing the place at like the 15-minute mark. I guess the best way to put it is that the script, like anybody would in the presence of Hayden Panettiere, spent itself just a bit too quickly, and there was nowhere to go from there. The Killing. Stanley Kubrick was not known for schmaltz. Depending on who you ask, a lot of his oeuvre might even be defined as a little cold and distant, like looking at humanity through a lens covered in early morning frost. The Killing doesn't take any more of a benign approach. It's about a group of guys who pull a robbery on a racetrack, and it covers every step of this heist, from the planning to the execution to the aftermath, with cold, indifferent efficiency. But it works. For reasons I can't quite explain, it makes for riveting storytelling. I don't really think I have a bad thing to say about The Killing. The Many Saints of Newark. Let's address the Sicilian elephant in the room. Without its connection to The Sopranos, The Many Saints of Newark would be a totally serviceable and perfectly forgettable crime film. What that has to say about the state of modern cinema and its over-reliance on enfranchisement notwithstanding, I like this alright. Seeing top-notch actors like Vera Farmiga and Corey Stoll doing bang-on impressions of Livia Soprano and Uncle Junior serves as a fun reminder of just how damn iconic these characters have become. It kind of makes me respect the show even more, and it makes me proud that I was there watching it back in 1999 when, cards on the table here, I was way too young to be watching something like The Sopranos in the first place. Many Saints is a 2-hour episode of the show. Full stop. Mute Witness. We, as a society, have been sleeping on mute witness for far too long. A woman witnesses a murder and tries to tell people, but she's mute and it's hard for her to communicate. To top it all off, the murderers are constantly trying to kill her before she can, well, not talk, but you get the idea. The more the movie goes on, the more it leans into comedy, and that can sometimes be to its detriment. But the tension remains constant and elevates mute witness into something truly special. If you have a Shudder subscription, give this a watch. You'll be white-knuckled the whole time. Ninja Terminator. There's So Bad It's Good, and then there's the next level, upon which Ninja Terminator lives comfortably. The dubbing is horrendous, and the plot is incoherent, and there are multiple instances where the camera is not pointed at the right spot, and you can see the DOP jarringly trying to make an adjustment. This is glorious. Please watch it. The Omen. This little boy is the Antichrist, according to a lot of kooky priests and theology professors. And they're right, because bad stuff happens to anyone who gets in his way. I'm going to make a bold statement, so put on your "how dare you have a different opinion than everyone else" goggles. The Omen isn't just better than The Exorcist. I'd go so far as to say The Omen is even far superior to The Exorcist. And you can take that to the bank, which is where they keep money, which is the root of all evil. Just like Damien. Oh my god, you guys, it's all connected. Damien, Omen 2. And the nominees for the worst, most unoriginal sequel titles are, but now that we've gotten that joke out of the way, Damien, Omen 2 rises above its laughable title and manages to do a pretty slick job of continuing this evil kid's story into young adulthood. And it's all wrapped around a cozy blanket of 80s corporate espionage. And spoilers, Damien still gets away at the end. They better kill this little bastard in the third film, otherwise shit's gonna go south real fast. And oh, look, here we are in 2024. I guess they didn't get him. The Omen 3, also known as The Final Conflict. Yeah, that's it. Just The Final Conflict. Not an Omen, not a 3, just The Final Conflict. Whoever named these two sequels, let's talk, baby. Who hurt you? Who hurt you? Anyways, Damien Thorne is an adult now, and he's ready to take over the world. A bunch of priests have collected the 7 lost daggers that are the only way to kill him, and now it's time for a head-to-head showdown between the forces of heaven and hell. It was very forward-thinking of Omen 3 to depict the Antichrist as a pasty, privileged, nepo baby CEO aiming for the presidency who bears the initials DT. I have no words for that. This was my favorite of the 3, though. Past Lives. When I watched this, it was a year and a day old, so it counts. And it's just a simple story of the experience of a woman who emigrates from Korea to North America and the childhood sweetheart she left behind. There's a lot of layers of humanity here, and they're all lovely and fascinating. And I'm not crying, you're crying, and I like Past Lives a lot. The Prowler. I have mixed feelings. On one hand, The Prowler is a very competently made slasher film with insanely great practical kills by VFX wizard Tom Savini. On the other, the film can drag in places, and I mean drag. And it was missing a certain something, though I couldn't really tell you what. I think The Prowler is perfectly mid, and that might be my problem with it. The Rundown. This early The Rock Johnson vehicle involves him, Stifler, and Rosario Dawson running around a South American jungle while Christopher Walken tries to kill them, and also Kino from Ninja Turtles 2 is there. It's pretty dumb, but if it helps, it does feel like the kind of dumb 80s action flicks gave us, right down to the gratuitous Schwarzenegger cameo. Turn off your brain and it'll go down smoothly enough. The Silence of the Lambs. Look, man, sometimes you just go a long time not seeing really famous movies, okay? Quit hassling me. And yes, The Silence of the Lambs is every bit as awesome as the years of praise have said. The hype is real. Jodie Foster is terrific. Anthony Hopkins is terrific. Everything about this just rocks. Is it weird that the killer seems to have a Dracula's castle-sized dungeon underneath his moderately sized suburban home? Sure. But nobody seems to find it silly that Thomas Harris decided to name his cannibal character Hannibal, so let's suspend our disbelief and just enjoy good movie making. Speaking of Hannibal. An interesting sequel, I'll give it that, and they tried juggling a whole lot of different balls with mixed results. Some of it works, some of it leaves you scratching your head, and some of it leaves Hannibal scratching Ray Liotta's head, if you catch my drift. It's a big step down from Silence and Manhunter, but it could have been way worse. And it will be, 2 movies from now. In the meantime, Red Dragon. I get wanting to remake Manhunter so that it can fit more seamlessly into the universe they've built with Anthony Hopkins. And Red Dragon does an excellent job of updating the story while being its own thing. The 2 versions are uber similar, and at the end of the day, it's gonna come down to personal preference. In my case, even though Hopkins is a lot of fun, I prefer Manhunter. But it's literally like picking between 2 very delicious pizzas. And speaking of a gooey mess, Hannibal Rising. I remember seeing the poster for this in a movie theater, and even having never watched the franchise back then, my reaction was still, Damn, they really need to stop. And boy, did they ever. Folks, we really didn't need a whole movie explaining the origins of Hannibal Lecter. Nor did we need to try and make him sympathetic by pitting him against a band of ravenous Nazis. Nor did we need this very basic revenge tale to end in such an underwhelming, well, duh, kind of way. Hannibal Rising is B.A.D. End of story. The Thomas Crown Affair. This movie is asking us to idolize a rich socialite who spends his time committing crimes just for the thrill of it. One of those crimes ends with an innocent security guard getting shot. I don't think I could hate this Thomas Crown character anymore, and the whole thing is told in the most boring way possible. Hard pass. And that's 26. And that's been Review Marathon 14. Here we come to the end of it all. Thank you so much for watching. If you are a board game person by any chance, over on our other channel, Digital Charcuterie, I have been covering board game news pertaining to Marvel United and DC Superheroes United pretty much nonstop, because we're in a Marvel and DC kind of tizzy over there right now. So check out the Digital Charcuterie channel if you like that. Otherwise, I will see you here next time. Until then, my friends, adios.